Well met, Savage Pathfinders and Wildcards. Welcome to a Tuesday live stream with the dev team behind Savage Pathfinder, Curse of the Crimson Throne, and Advanced Player's Guide, Mike Barbeau and Donald Schepis. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how's it going, folks?
So we know we'll give a couple minutes before everybody gets in here and sees us, but the today's pretty awesome. The Kickstarter is going fantastic. I mean, we may as well show off where it is for posterity because even Hannibal's excited. Let's go and take a look at how the Kickstarter is doing, and we will share the window. But yeah, I think there's like over 1,000 backers, and all of the monies, which we appreciate, because it keeps us employed. But here we go. So share screen, share window, boom. Yeah, so a big 1,046 backers. That is awesome, guys. We appreciate that number more than you know. And that means we are making our way to capturing a good chunk of the folks who joined us for the first Savage Pathfinder campaign, which of course is already shipping and is now in distribution. So if and at your local game store, so if you haven't picked up Savage Pathfinder yet, you can order it from peginc.com, or you should be able to start finding it soon at your local game store. And if they don't have it, ask them to order it from us. We are doing direct to retail now. So just shoot them my email, info@peginc.com, and we'll get them signed up for our retail program, and we will get Savage Pathfinder into the stores near you. So yeah, guys, we've still got 2 weeks to go on the Kickstarter. We're going to end on a Thursday, and we are making our way through. So the coolest thing about this campaign is that it's got stuff for game masters and for players. We did the Rise of the Rune Lord campaign already, 6 books. I think we just released another book 5 on one of our digital platforms today. So that is increasing the ways you can play Rise of the Rune Lords. But if you guys are done with Rune Lords or you want to jump into Saving Corvosa, we have Curse of the Crimson Throne. And the neat thing is tomorrow at this exact same time, we will have the author of Curse of the Crimson Throne on our this channel. So you can throw him some questions on what his inspirations were, what it's like to write such a long adventure path, the legacy of the Curse of the Crimson Throne, and all the good stuff. So tune in tomorrow for the author of Curse of the Crimson Throne. But today our look at is at the Advanced Player's Guide, which should be fun for players and for game masters. And so Don and Mike were kind enough to throw together some previews for us to look at of the Advanced Player's Guide. And we just updated the Cavalier, so the link I'm going to throw you now doesn't have that in it, but here's one link for all of them, and then I think Donald will find us a link for the updated Cavalier, because we have been taking your feedback over the day. So let's see. I'm going to throw it in the chat if you guys want the APG preview. Give it a look here. Let's see. Boom. Here we go. So there's an Owly link in chat if you guys haven't seen this yet. How's it going, Dartnet? How's Colorado, buddy? Got a friend from the Rocky Mountain Savages in chat. How's it going, Robin? Robin met him on the Savage Cruiser, or is it Deadwood? I think it was Deadwood. Friend of Carl. So welcome to the chat, guys. So give that link a download, and we will start going into it, guys. So let's skip the Cavalier for now while Donald gives us a new link to the file, or I find the one that he gave me before. And we will go in.
I mean, we don't need to worry too much about it. It's just the file has 2 of Mike's typos. He wanted to hide his shame at the last minute. And then I missed one of the little dev notes in there, which is, I don't know, maybe that's a little more fun. For anybody that watches the live stream after the fact, they're going to get the redacted version.
Oh, that's good. Yes. So
is one of them, the misnote isn't even like from the most recent update, right? It's something that got changed like forever ago. So yeah, that's not necessarily going to be important.
Well, let's dive in and take a look, and let me turn off our little overlay so we can get a full body shot. Boom, there we go. So the Cavalier, one of the most anticipated new classes. So the Advanced Player Guide comes with 6 new classes, and this is one of them. So guys, take us through what's on this Cavalier that people might find interesting, exciting, and talk a little bit about how you guys converted it to Savage Worlds.
So the Cavalier has, I think, 3 iconic things about him as you progress, right? First of all, he is a mounted guy, right? He's, I mean, you don't have to have a horse, but one of his big abilities is, of course, Mighty Charge. And then later, his legendary ability is Supreme Charge. Even his more iconic, specific horse mounted mastery capability is all about being better at hitting people who have reach. For anybody who hasn't really dealt with mounted charges, they're in the both Pathfinder and regular Suede core rules. In case you have a group of knights in a regular fantasy campaign or anything like that, they're good to know. The second thing is his challenge. So your challenge is going to differ depending on your particular order that you're a part of. Some of them are more tanky, some are about dispelling magic users, some are about being the biggest jerk ever and stealing the glory from even your friends. But each order is going to provide you with a unique challenge that you do. You basically go in combat and you say, hey, you're about to suck it hard, and you go up and just take them down. We're still play testing through those, and because they're so varied, because we're trying to follow the iconic path that the OG Pathfinder left for us, right? We're balancing and adapting as we go. And then finally, each one has an order ability that they can do, and that again is going to greatly differ depending on what else your order is, whether it's giving you a buff to a specific trait roll. Sorry, got distracted by John there.
John's good at that. He does that during our actual plays too. He knows how to spend his bennies to cause trouble.
Yeah. It's all about changing up how your Cavalier works. And then, as was pointed out the other day, just to not throw it under the bus, is of course the banner ability. Daryl Hayhurst commented about it being one of the things he liked. So yeah, there's a lot to go into. You guys gotta stop making me laugh. I'll never be able to finish. We don't want to be here all night. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. But yeah, it all goes into making sure that the Cavalier is iconic on his own without feeling like a fighter with a horse, right? And I think we found a good balance for that.
See, I saw you got called out for balance earlier today on one of the comments. It's like, is this Cavalier really balanced? So, let's let Mike off hook a little bit, because I don't think any of these Splat Book characters were balanced with original Pathfinder characters in Pathfinder. I mean, like, part of the reason people would want to put money down on this book was power creep, right? Like, that was definitely a thing back in the day when this came out. So how have you taken that challenge? Just knowing that, like, you want to get in kind of all of the flavorful Pathfinder abilities that came with these characters, but Savage Worlds, we kind of do like balance. We do have point buy. There is, there's more. So how have you tackled that?
So first of all, I don't remember the gentleman's Facebook name, but he was very kind in the way he said it. And I know one specifically that's being tweaked right now because it's more powerful than the others. But this goes with the different scenarios, right? So inevitably, if you just want to make a character who is going to hit hard, hit every time, and never get hit, there's a few edges that you're just always going to take, right? Trademark weapon, improve trademark weapon, block, improve block, frenzy, improve frenzy, right? Those are like some keys to going in and just butchering people, right? And so not everything we do wants to be about just going in and hacking, right? That's always going to be something we have to contend with. But we want to look at what the desire is, what the scenario is. So let's say you are building a Cavalier that you want to be more tanky, that you want to be able to help support the fighters, things like that. You might choose the order that makes it harder for spells to go off on you because you want to resist magic and you want to be the target. If you're a support character, right? If you love supporting people, but you don't want to be a flimsy support character, right? You're going to go for a challenge that makes you better at testing people. And so what we have to do is we have to build or use existing encounters, right, in which we want to achieve these different things and say, okay, here's how I achieved this. Now, what happens if I do this other thing, right? And we can take these other iconic and just traditional suede edges, right? Like trademark weapon is far from new. It's, you know, I'll admit I take it all the time. But, you know, will I take this over that, right? Like, is it always better? Is it never better? And the place you want to end up is, you know, sometimes I'll take it, right? And I think that is a good balance to aim for, right? You don't want something to be something you take every single time, no matter what. And so if you're running it through a scenario and it does amazing, and then you run it through another scenario and it does bad, first of all, you don't want to just do 2 tests, because 2 points of data is a horrible way to test something out. But you want to look at, you know, multiple events. This isn't Cavalier, but a great example is the Inquisitor. I'm playing an Inquisitor right now. I love the Inquisitor. I have a blast with him. He's a Dampier Inquisitor. I think I called that out. Somebody said I was Blade. You're not wrong, but still, you know, he's really good at finding a wild card in a party, hindering him, and fighting him, pronouncing his judgment. And when I go in, if there's one wild card, my Inquisitor makes him rue the day I showed up, right? But in a fight with nothing but extras, where there's like 10 extras going on, my judgment does okay on one guy, and then it falls to the side. So I have scenarios in which I shine and some in which I don't, and that's okay, right? You don't need to be the best character, the best player at the table for every scenario and every situation. So we put a lot of work into finding all the different scenarios. What that does do, and this is one that becomes hard to see on the outside if you're not used to it, is it requires us to look at all the rules. And so when we're talking about, you know, are you testing, right? You know, do you have somebody in the party who uses rabble rouser? You know, do you make the entire enemy group vulnerable in a large blast template? Are you charging? Are you following the rules for charging? We have to take these into account, right? Because if we don't, then it comes up later and it's like, oh, wow, that did something I had no intention for it to do. And so with that, you know, we also have to keep in mind that not every player uses these rules. I would not be surprised if there was a lot of people out there who fired enemies in cover and miss, but still hit the target number 4 and don't, you know, roll for damage, but adding the armor of the object, right? They just, oh, I missed, and you move on. And that's fine, right? If it's not a rule you use or you don't know about it, you know, as long as everybody's playing by the same rules, it works out, you know, pretty fine. But you're going to, is this automatic, Landauer, or are you like tagging me on these?
Oh no, I'm here pushing buttons. Just to make sure
you're a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, def no auto bennies. So yeah, there's a lot of that comes into it. I posted on the Facebook page, or not Facebook, the forum recently. Somebody had trouble with a slower combat, and I threw out very unfun math, right, on how the fights can go and how you can swing it and differ it. So there's just a lot to keep in mind with that kind of thing. And I feel like I've rambled a lot. I've hopefully answered the initial question that I think came up like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. So talk about the orders for the Cavalier, because I like these mechanics. Like I'm working on a game that's got nightly orders in it, and this is some pretty cool stuff that you can do if you're a Cavalier. So give a mention to the orders for Cavalier.
So the iconic Pathfinder Cavalier, he's I think it's Lane. He is from the very first order, which is the Order of the Cockatrice. They seek fame and glory, and they're all about self-promotion almost. They're the ones that get Death No Benny, and so for them, you know, we wanted them to have a boost to fighting on the challenge, which X editions ago The base challenge was very generic, and it was the same across everybody. But we wanted to call out the orders more and give them more unique aspects. And so he is the more straightforward one. The Steel Glory, if anybody has played Pathfinder, OG Pathfinder, you're probably very similar to this, where you get to make a free attack against somebody whenever I think they get a crit or something like that. But we wanted to make it more straightforward because it's only one edge, right? We don't want it to trigger on like if your ally gets a raise or something minor like that, because you want it to come up a good amount of the time when you're spending a edge for it. Yes. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for the 1,000+ backers.
So let me ask you something, Mike. Just because this is one of the questions that this is why I'm here. That the audience doesn't know to ask this question. But so the Cavalier orders actually came up. So we've started doing a weekly design meeting, where whenever somebody has something that they're gnawing on and they want some extra eyes on, right? So it's me, Shane, Daryl, Clint, sometimes Simon, and then whoever else needs to jump in that meeting. So why don't we talk a little bit about because I think it also ties into the Def No Auto, Benny, because you were saying before the stream that that's even a note for something that hasn't been in there for that's feedback to like 2 revisions ago. But so why don't we, because that's something that the folks at home never get to see, is the idea of that we would take something in and have a whole bunch of people mash on it, for lack of a better term, and try and break everything you've got, and then you've got to kind of figure out, okay, how do I take all that and turn it into something useful?
Yeah. So with that, I want to take 2 minutes here to talk feedback, because inevitably you guys are going to get the first release of the PDFs. You guys provide a lot of feedback, even for the fantasy community. I think Don's still combing through all the feedback. So you guys do a lot, right? We look through a book. I think this is version like 180 something. And you can look at a sentence 180 times and miss the fact that you have a typo in there, or a minor thing. And so that Def No Benny thing, right? I think forever ago, it was something along the line of like, when you get a final hit or something that an opponent did wounds to, you got like a free Benny, I think. But when we meet up, right, we talk about it, and it becomes, first of all, how easy is it, right? Am I having to remember a bunch of things? You'll find, for example, a lot of the auras and stuff that go out are 5 or 10 inches. We've rounded them up or down from the random ranges in old school Pathfinder to start making it more easy to track. But we'll sit there and look at, for example, every order had like a challenge ability that was just +2 fighting. And then if you check your order, it gave you another very minor bump, right? And so in looking at that, we would go back and forth, and we ended up coming to the consensus of, well, if the Cavalier orders are a big part of the Cavalier, if the orders are part of what makes them interesting, why is that just thank you, Don. Why is that just getting tagged on, right? That's not as cool as it being the thing they do. And so we started looking at all of the extra, things they were doing and bringing them more to life, breathing more flavor into them, along with the other things they did. And at that point, you hit this phase in which you're now rebalancing and retesting for a new thing, right? So we have our default of what is the base thing going to be. The Order of the Cockatrice +2, that's the base, right? And so then we start looking at the other ones and how can we adjust that, right? How can we make it like that, not exactly the same? It doesn't feel like a cookie cutter. So like Order of the Star, we're trying to be similar, simple, and match it. And so when your target, you're going for the spellcaster killer, the target of the Cavalier's challenge subtracts 2 from his arcane skill rolls, which it's not a +2 to fighting, But if you also took Arcane Resistance, right, and you're up in that spellcaster's face, you are suddenly hampering him like nobody else can. And so, when we take that feedback, when we adjust things, we do these kinds of shifts, and then Shane or somebody else goes through and they leave a ton of big notes, which Mike misses a couple of after he changes things.
So yes, a totally serious question from Clint. Do Cavaliers automatically get a magic shield from the Game Master after arriving at the carnival ride? Yes, Clint. Yes. And those would be in the box set for a stretch goal if we had stretch goals, but we don't. So sadly, no magical shields are part of this campaign, but we might consider it for the next one. So before we go past the Cavalier, because we did have a yep.
Sorry, I did not realize I had my physical mute on. One thing that also, because Mike has, I think, probably the hardest job of any of the designers at Pinnacle, because he's making new stuff, right? B, he's doing it for a very specific setting, right? Like I saw that Vencloud question will be additional setting rules. All that stuff is baked in, right? You want to play Pathfinder, you get Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, it's Pathfinder. You don't have to worry about picking and choosing different bits, because that's the promise. But so he's got to fit everything within Galarian, and he's got to reconcile the different styles of play between, Pathfinder is a much more dungeon crawly kind of resource managey type game, right? And we love it for that. But Savage Worlds has kind of a different tempo and a different way that even combats are structured, right? There's no wild cards and extras in Pathfinder. So he's creating new content, which is always hard. He's creating it specific for Galarian, so there's a whole layer of all of the setting stuff that he has to worry about, and he has to worry about making sure that not only is it fun in Savage Worlds, but it's still mapping to what was in Pathfinder. And I don't know how many times when we were talking as a group about the Cavalier orders, Mike had to be like, okay, I love that idea, but that's not what the ability does.
You're so nice to Mike during the streams. It's so totally opposite of how you guys like bark at each other when we have meetings.
I know. God knows I don't handle compliments well.
And that's why I do it in public.
Right.
Well, so here's a question on one of the different classes. So the Rogue and their mystic powers. What's up with that, Mike?
So the Rogue for Pathfinder is one of those classes that we could not come close to capturing the bulk of. Fighter is very straightforward in Pathfinder, right? You have weapon training and armor training, and then later you get more weapon training, and later more armor training, and more weapon training, more armor training, and bonus feats. And that's very easy. The rogues get rogue talents, which turn into a plethora of things. And one of the things they can do is take minor and major magic, which is basically where they get the first one they get some cantrips and they get some first level spells, right? It builds from there. They're not full spellcasters, and the majority of their spells, especially the ones that are mostly beneficial, aren't. You're not walking around throwing fireballs as a rogue, especially with your cantrip capabilities. And so we didn't get to capture that in the core book, right? We captured their evasion and their trap sense and things like that. I think we got a good scope of that and how that is meant to feel. But much like, with favored powers, we didn't get to encompass everything. One of the big things missing that wasn't already being duplicated by another edge, right? Because that's another thing we want to avoid. If something's letting you do, something basic already, we don't want to replicate that exact effect with just a new name, because that's nothing big, right? That's not great. So one of the things that didn't replicate was mystic powers for the rogue. And so you could, if you want, branch into Shadow Dancer, or you could branch into Red Mantis Assassin if you wanted to get some mystic powers, but you don't have to as a rogue, right? You're not required. And so with that, came getting the abilities to boost trait, athletic, stealth, thievery, dark sight, sound silence, wall walker. These are all support abilities, right? These are all spells that are going to help you be more roguish, whether you're a thief or an acrobat, or a pseudo assassin. Um, Clint does make Clint. We're talking tomorrow, buddy. So take it easy. But yeah, so that's why we did it. That's why we wanted to bring it over, so that especially anybody who's like me, who has played, a character or campaign partway through, and they said, "Oh, I'm going to convert my character over," right? If you're missing the ability to cast some of your spells, you may not have all of them because, of course, Don, you did the math. Pathfinder has what, 600 and some spells?
Oh goodness! Ask me of a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I want to say it was like closer to 800.
So
and let's not forget that was just the core rules. I did not include anything they added since then, which would have been, I think we would have had some stuff that got captured in the advanced player's guide. So there's probably at least another 30 or 40 to add to that list.
So yeah, those are the reasons right there. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully somebody out there is excited to play their rogue with some mystic powers and be a magical ninja.
Nice. Yes.
Oh, actually, I do want to throw out one more spoiler that I don't think is in here. That Shane said I could mention, but I'm still gonna be a little vague. This book is also going to contain what we're calling right now advanced cantrips. So these are more outlined cantrips. Some of them actually cost a single PowerPoint, and they replicate some of the powers that you would want to do that you wouldn't pay for. Let's be honest. So like sending, right? It's personally one of my favorite setting spells. You figure out who you're sending to, you cast it, you get 25 words, they get 25 words back to you, and it's over, right? Nobody's going to take that when they have mind link, but they're these little extra small cantrips that you're going to be able to do in addition. So I just wanted to throw that out there since we were just talking spells.
Nice. Well, and as long as we're on the new class edges page, are there any other ones you want to highlight from our ample list?
So I know one of the most controversial edges was Mystic Powers, or not Mystic Powers, Favorite Powers. Some people, were like, "Oh, I want it to bolt." Some was, "Oh, I want it to be, whatever I want." And we talked about it a couple times, but one of the issues you ran into is that it was always like the best spells ever, and it started falling out of balance, right? And it's not the most fun when one of your three powers is not on the list, but it does benefit you to branch out a bit more. And one of the things we wanted to make sure we captured wasn't just the sorcerer, cleric, or wizard. Those were the base ones we had in the core book, but we wanted the specialist favorite powers, right? And so that's why we went in and we made sure to include those. And so as you look at them, if you're the necromancer, you're getting it on blind. If you want to be the evoker, you gain blast or burst, havoc, or stun. Like, they've got a lot of good diversity here, and pretty much all of them is what I would call an A tier power, a B tier, if not a second A, and then like a lower one that you take when you aren't quite sure what else to take with your character. But yeah, so we wanted to make those really pop. Extra domain was one. Another one for those clerics who wanted more powers, but they wanted a bigger list of diversity. In core Pathfinder, you normally take 2 domains. Long story short, right, as we're doing the conversion, it just didn't quite work out in the same way. And so we wanted to make sure there was that extra domain edge. Still gives you an extra power, but it gives you an extra, I think, 12 new spells to pick from, potentially. So it gives you a lot there. There are not currently new domains and new bloodlines. So when you're cross-blooded, you are grabbing from the existing ones. I would not be surprised if we got 2 new domains and bloodlines in the future, but trying to keep this at a a solid page count and grab as much of the condensed and iconic stuff as possible, we had to cut some things. And unfortunately, domains currently is one of them. So yeah.
There's also the added complexity of, especially with domains, they take up a lot of space, right? Because there's a lot of information. Because it's not just rules stuff. You've also got the flavor stuff as well, and you have to capture the whole thing. Because what's a cleric when they're following a new domain, and they have no idea what kind of cleric they should be because of it.
Yeah.
So I am Skyline asked a similar question earlier, and this one, like, is there any of this that's going to make its way into the Fantasy Companion or a future Fantasy Companion? Like, okay, so the Fantasy Companion is the Fantasy Companion. There's no future Fantasy Companion. Like, Suede will be the edition for life. That is just the rule right now. Yes.
So,
but yeah, I mean, these are in development we're in development at the same time. So can you talk about any of the crossover that happened, or any of the good stuff is in the Fantasy Companion that might have been inspired by Savage Pathfinder?
Because I rarely do it, I do want to toot my own horn. Some of my legendary edges got pulled over, especially so Barbarian. I think we talked about in the last live stream. His legendary edge makes him unstoppable. The Fantasy Companion, I think, strips out the requirement for Barbarian and adds a couple other requirements to fit it in. Same for Home Ground for the Druid. So there are a few things that made it over. The adjustment to Summon Ally, of course, is across both books. And so there are some small things that made it back and forth. There's a lot, I think, that was influenced based on playtesting one or the other that helped adjust or tweak. I think we said in the last stream, but Clint and I sat down and on more than one occasion went, nope, this is actually in the Fantasy Companion right now. And we went, all right, well, how do we change it to complement it?
Speaking of Home Ground, another thing that we have now done twice in the last 3 weeks, I want to say 4 weeks, I forget. We got like a between 50 and 75% hit rate of we'll talk about something for an hour, and either in the last 5 minutes figure out the actual solution that we should probably go with, or wrap back around to the original. And I think didn't we do that with Favored Ground?
Home
Ground?
Yeah. Home Ground was great. It was 6 of us on that call. I went through, I think, the opening reasons for my design philosophy because, talking with the group, you can't present something in a vacuum. You have to explain why. We went there, and there were a lot of great ideas. This is another one of those scenarios where I had to pull people back a couple times because it wasn't how Pathfinder did a certain thing. And then, like 45 minutes later, we had made it back around. I think there was a minor clarification and an adjustment on one sentence. And it was fantastic. So we've done that more than once.
Well, so before we go to one of the other preview pages, and I'm totally going to blindside you with this. So I think during the first live stream, you two were really worried about one minor correction to the Savage Pathfinder core rules that's coming through from this like further play testing, and we didn't talk about it in the first stream. Do you guys even remember what that was?
I think I do.
Yeah, so
I don't. So you venture a guess.
So
and I'll tell you if that sounds right.
Actually, anybody who looked at, I think, the Inquisitor may have noticed it.
Oh yeah, no, not dissing, wrapping back around. It's that's game design. Is you have to work through everything, and then you figure out whether or not. Oh, actually, all these other ideas we came up with not better than the original. Back to the original.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
so
sorry, you're saying,
Mike. I do remember that, Mike. The idea that we're coming back to around for whatever rule this is was on your plate of options to start with, and I think we didn't go that direction, but then we figured out now that maybe it is a better direction to go.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into this, right? I'm sure everybody here knows that, inherently, but there are often times in which we will look at something and go, we have option A and option B, and both do what we want. Both are equally good ideas. Which one do we want to go with? And so we may look at other things that have come up and say, you know what, the general audience has preferred, A in the past, and so we'll put A out there. And sometimes A is just as loved. Sometimes B would have been preferred. And so we had a similar thing with armor restriction, right? Armor restriction, we had two paths we could initially go. One was the cancellation of abilities, and one was a penalty, right? And at the time, we went with the penalty. That way, people didn't feel neglected. This is over a year ago, right? But at the time, we basically went A or B. Let's go with the penalty. And as we have, gone since then, right? We've looked at comments and feedback and things like that, and it's one of those things where we went, you know what? Seems like they would have preferred the other one. And so one of the updates that's in this book at the very beginning, it says that we are using now the other version, which is to say, if you have armor restriction light, if you're wearing medium or heavy armor, you simply don't get the ability. So your fighter who runs around in full plate, just fine sneaking and then takes the rogue edge at veteran or whatever, he's still just as good, but he's now not nimble enough to do the sneak attack because that requires more manual dexterity. So that is one of the real changes we did. And again, this is, it's something we had before the first Kickstarter.
Wasn't it the second version you came up with? But it was the second version, but it was one that was never put on paper. It was at the first time we talked about it in a meeting. You were like, well, we could just do this. And then we kind of blew past it because we were like, oh, well, there's all these other things, right, that it should affect. And then
yeah, so it's evolution, right? And so that's one of the things we're switching over. And based on a lot of the feedback we've seen over the year and such, it's something I think most people, if not everybody, will feel good about, and B, I think a lot of people are kind of doing it already because it felt right to them. So yeah, that's where we're going with that.
So yeah, the number one. I was going to say the number one most important thing that we've gotten to see, right, as people were getting in, getting their PDFs and actually playing, is seeing people playing with the rules, right? Because that's the tension we always have is general, like in those Rise of the Ruler play tests, everything was working as we kind of wanted it to, but it's seeing, and especially like Mike said at the beginning of the stream, it's not just what do the rules say, and if you're using all of the rules as written, but also what's the actual like usage in the wild.
Yeah, well, and then Shane mentions that the obviously the solution wouldn't have worked because of the class edge issue. I love that we now have the option like Fantasy Companion, no class edges. You get to keep the Savage Worlds ethos of not having classes, and then we get to see how it works in Savage Pathfinder. I love having both. I think it's really fun to play around with. And
so, with that in mind, in my off week Saturday game, the one I get to play in, my buddy's he's playing a necromancer. He wants to prove that all necromancers aren't evil, and so he's actually using the summon undead from the Fantasy Companion because it fits best, right? It's just this really cool thing to add on. So I agree. It's nice having both books because they provide different things, and if you're like my group, we'll pick the thing that fits really well and add it to our game.
So speaking of fitting very well, I want a coat of Armor of Insults because that just is so my vibe. I love that this thing exists. So one of the preview guys things that we have for you on the previews is the how to enchant things and what magical items we that might take enchantments. So guys, talk about what your favorite ones are on this spread.
If I had to go with one, I'd probably say dueling.
Nice. So talk about it.
So I don't think it's the most like flashy, over the top one, but I'm a sucker for swashbuckling characters, and so getting the quick edge, which is hands down one of my favorite edges. I think somebody was asking in Facebook, what do you say instead of roll for initiative? deal cards, or what do you say? My first question is who has quick, because inevitably at least one person at the table has quick. So I love that. And then getting the free reroll on called shots. I think called shots are one of my favorite jank abilities to do in Savage Worlds. I like the whole Zorro, right? You disarm somebody, or you go for something special and fun. And so I think that dueling really brings that out, right? It makes it pop and it makes you feel awesome.
Yeah, but you get a free reroll when you're doing attempting a called shot.
Yeah, it's me save my bennies for something else.
Yeah.
To reroll that damage roll on something else, right? So yeah.
So Donald, what's your favorite one on the spread?
For me, it's transformative, largely because it has basically nothing to do with the mechanics and entirely to do with aesthetic, right? I love the idea of this is still my favorite edge from everything we've done for Pathfinder is the novice fighter edge, where you just get to choose a combat edge. Because I love that notion of the fighter being the weapon master, right? You go into any new situation and they're good to go. And with transformative, you get that, it retains, it kind of allows best of both worlds. Because I also love, you've got the iconic weapon that has those couple of features that are exactly like, your character starts to become known, like, oh, that's the guy with the ice sword, right? And every time he hits somebody, it does ice damage, right? And all the other abilities it might have. And so you get that, and mixing with that kind of versatility that I think a fighter really shines with, and again, aesthetically, right? I like the idea. One of the things that I absolutely love that I know very little about the actual text of Deadlands Dark Ages, but I'm gonna push for this notion if we don't have it in there already. But so you think about the Western cowboy, and he's got a 6-gun in his hip. And then he's got the long gun that he always pulls off the horse. And I love the imagery of you've got the fighter with the long great sword that they pull off their horse like the rifle off of a saddle. And so I'm just a sucker for those kind of like, how does this character look like when they're fighting with this style of weapon versus that style of weapon? And now you don't have to you don't have that downside of, oh, well, I've got this really cool weapon and it's got all these enchantments on it, and I've used it for so long, and now with you just need to find somebody that can put transformative on your weapon, and now you've got the whole Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that's the thing, that is a Benny magnet, like, right? Like, if you are a good game master and your character describes their transformative well, like, that's a Benny, right? That's easy. That's like, yes, so. So for my favorite, obviously, Armor of Insults. So this thing, it reads, it basically, instead of having little studs, the little studs are shaped like little faces. And once per day is a limited action. The wearer may command the mouse to unleash a torrent of verbal abuse affecting creatures within 20 yards, which is really fantastic. I would also go for bennies on this. Making up wonderful Monty Python-esque insults would be fantastic. So that's my favorite one. And then we had a really good comment. Dead Gunslinger mentions that the rogues would definitely want to wear the boneless leather. So let's go check out boneless leather and see why it's good for rogues. It says it's a suit of leather +3 or +5. Wow, those are some good pluses on for leather. Versus bladed weapons, and Aegis gives the wearer the ability to twist and contort his body in virtually any direction. He is not vulnerable or distracted due to being bound. Oh yeah, that would be fun for a rogue.
Yeah.
Good call, Dead Gunslinger. That's
you got to be, you got to make that money first, right? Get that cash. And then, you either hope to loot it off somebody or you hope to find it in town. Because, unless you're going to Kmart that has everything all the time, you may not find it, but it's definitely one of those things that I think you aim for. You really want to find.
Well, and that brings us up just how much like playtesting goes into Suede and trying to make the companions, an advancement and more complex, but also fit. Is like vulnerable and distracted and bound and tangled are just some new hotness to play around with. And they're very effective as a game master. I mean, like if you entangle a player, I mean that they are single focus for the until they're untangled is to get untangled. I mean, there's no way around it. That is one of those things where it's fun to be a game master and have enemies that aren't necessarily going for the big hits, but are going for the status effects, the like the grappling kind of things. And bound and entangled are where it's at. So,
and this is one of those things too that I think is really fun for the player when your GM throws out the entangle and gets everybody, and then he's like, all right, you're distracted vulnerable. You get to be like, not me. You're feeling great about it. You get to be cool. So yeah, I think it adds a lot to that because everybody, you want to have your moment to shine and have fun.
Yes. So it's anything else we want to point out on here? Obviously making enchantments is really a fun way for characters to customize their stuff. I mean, that's really character focused, and that's really why we're pretty confident that the Advanced Player's Guide appeals as much or more to players than game masters, because the best way to get your game master to let you play like the Inquisitor, so you can beat Landauer's Paladins, is to say, I have the book and it's in here. Can I play this? And
I want to take a moment to talk to the GMs. All right. There are awesome cursed items in here. Don't be like me. Don't get overzealous and throw them all at your players. They will laugh the first time. They will loathe you the 10th time.
I mean, especially if you did it all at the same time, Mike. Like we need to go on 9 different quests just before we're not taking penalties the whole time. Like, oh yeah, we'll get to the campaign one of these days, but oh Mike.
As a quick aside, just because I was looking for my list for a while and I finally found it. Dartnet asked earlier what prestige classes we will see. So the prestige edges, we've got the Battle Herald. We have the Holy Vindicator, the Horizon Walker, the Master Chemist, the Master Spy, the Nature Warden, the Rage Prophet, and the Stalwart Defender.
And they each do a bunch of different cool things.
I remember, I don't know why. I think I was looking for art for the Kickstarter page. Oh yeah, I was. And I came across the Rage Prophet in the book, and I was like, okay, hold on. I got to read what this does.
Right? Those two words put together, it's like, this is a serious character. I think I even know which players would totally pick something called a Rage Prophet. I just know.
And that's another, I want to call out the prestige edges too, because, I've talked about this in the past couple times I've come on, the difference between, hack and slash and wanting to subdue or be more social and things like that. And I think there's a great difference that you get to look at between like the Battle Herald, right, and the Master Spy. If you take the Master Spy, the 3 Master Spy edges, you're nowhere, going to be as killy as the Battle Herald. It's just not going to happen. It's not what you're built for. But when you need to infiltrate the castle, right, and pull off all the lies and get to the throne room and be super, super cool doing that, you're the man for the job or the lady for the job. You're the one who's going to do it. And so one of the things I like about, whether it's the powers, the edges, the prestige edges, the items, is the ability to do, various things, right? You're not shoehorned into murder hoboing.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, I mean, murder hoboing is still a legit way to play the game. But if you're not the murder hobo and you're facing some really big competition, this battlement shield is actually really cool. I got to read this. So as an action once per day, this heavy shield deflecting transforms into a solid 10 foot by 10 foot by 1 foot wall of masonry with a battlement on top and an arrow slit on each 5 foot length. That's awesome. That is like we're getting attacked by a dragon. We need to defend ourselves in one shield. That's pretty cool. I'm digging that one. And then I'm a pirate fan. I mean, Buccaneer, right? And like play Sea of Thieves like way too much. So this is hotness. The Buccaneer's breastplate basically prevents you from drowning because it allows you that if you're underwater, you can go back to the surface rapidly. So yes.
Mike, where are rules for getting the bends in Pathfinder?
Talk to Clint.
Clint?
Yeah, no, and there's a bunch of like wondrous items in here. Like there's a cauldron of resurrection, where you cook somebody back to life, I guess. So if your profession is a chef, I guess you can go for that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So yes, chat's finally having fun. The yeah, there's more than one class. But I think that's the coolest thing about Pathfinder, right? Is that like there are a bunch of classes and they are all super different. I think one of the comments did make it into the chat here, but they posted on our Facebook post. I was pretty sure it was Tim from Colorado talking about how do you play the summoner, and is it totally like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? And yes, it's totally like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. But do you want to do a quick little brief little thing on like if you want to play the summoner, and I'll pull up the next one slide we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, how does the summoner work?
So the big thing for the summoner is you're going to have a buddy, first of all. He is going to be your Adolon. You've got a unique connection to him. He's a monster, whether he's your, Pikachu or your Charizard or, your Slender Man, because we don't have to stay with the Pokemon analogy. He is your alien, right? He is this thing that you basically send in to do battle for you. And depending on how you want to be the master of your Adolon, you can evolve him in different ways. Evolution, back to the Pokemon reference. And it can be anything from giving him a combat edge to upping an attribute to, if he's big enough, giving him swallow whole. And then one of my favorite things is eventually the summoner, I think it's his legendary edge, he gets to share his evolution pool with his Adolon. And so he can split it in half. So his Adolon gets half the mutations and he gets half the mutations. And so you've got a lot of really cool things you can do. There's actually in Curse of the Crimson Throne a summoner, and you get to fight him or ally with him and his super weird but cool Adolon, and they do nifty stuff together as well. Oh, and you
I also just want to. I was originally thinking of maybe doing the summoner as one of the previews that we did today, but the summoner is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. Mike did not skimp out on the Eidolon rules. So, like, just the evolutions is 2 pages by itself. You get a lot.
I said it before and I'll say it again. In my personal opinion, when you play the summoner, it's partially because you really want to play a monster, right? At least that's me, right? I could be skewed in my opinion. And so the last thing I wanted was for somebody to come in, look at the evolutions, and A, not be able to build what they want to build, and B, feel that something that they thought was iconic to the summoner had gotten left out. And so there's a lot in there, right? Whether you want to build a monstrous horse that tramples over your enemies, or a small little PowerPoint generating imp that casts spells, to a humanoid who goes in there and does gang up teamwork fighting with you. There is so much you can do with that. If you enjoy making characters, there's a lot you can do just making new Adolons, right? So and the nice thing is whenever you advance to a new rank, you can redistribute your evolution points, which means if you're like me and make a bad build right away, you're not shoehorned into that bad build forever. You can go, oh no, my Adolon's gonna evolve and change as my character has done these things, and you can redistribute it.
That's hot.
Yeah,
I like that. That's amazing. I mean, that's kind of, that's pretty unique too. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of any other Savage Worlds thing where it's like you get so far along, like, oops, I went down the wrong tree.
It's a magnanimous GM.
That's true, right?
It's for every other setting.
Stage your character sheet, hope no one notices. So the question is there only one Eidolon, or can you have multiple?
So there's only one, right? Basically, and you can read this in the fluff when you guys get the PDF, but you actually create this spiritual bond with them. So whenever you pull them back into reality, it's not that you're getting another Adolon, even if you mutate them. It's like yours is coming back, and part of your soul is tied to them. Now, the summoner, I think, gets just about every one of the summon powers, whether it's summon ally or summon planar ally or summon monster or other things we haven't previewed yet. You can summon more and different creatures, so you're not shoehorned into your one buddy, but he is your iconic buddy, right? He's, like I said, he's your Pikachu. You may throw out random other. I run out of Pokemon metaphors. I'm sorry, guys.
Gotta catch them all.
But yeah, he's the one you come back to.
Awesome. And then, real quick question, easy. Does it cost the advance, or is it just every advance upon an advance?
When you reach a new rank.
Oh, new rank. So yes.
So you play them out through novice, right? If you take the extra evolution edge, you can, add the new ones in. But once you hit like seasoned, you can go, all right, well, my first seasoned, I'm going to take extra evolutions again because it's kind of like extra power points. And now I'm going to rebuild them into this. And behold, Steve,
nice.
Whatever you want to call him.
Awesome. So for the last few minutes of our stream, let's talk about the edges and hindrances that are new. First one that catches my eye is totally Fae Taken. This one's cool. It says, as a child, you were whisked away by a mischievous Fae for a time. When you returned, you were either considered odd or distant. God, no one's ever said that about me. And you long to return there and find the mortal world dull and at times revolting. So you eat poorly and trust strange visions. Character suffers a -2 on rolls to resist disease and poison, on rolls to resist spells, abilities, and oppose tests from Fae. That's kind of a cool little hindrance. I like that one. So which ones stick out for you guys?
So I'm a little sad here. I don't think it made it to this list. Oh wait, no. It didn't.
We'll talk about it anyways.
Okay, so there is one in which animals don't take kindly to you at all. They do not react well. They you need to have somebody bring them over to you and basically handle them and get them to interact with you in a friendly way. It's not that you walk into town and every dog tries to murder you right away. It's not anything like that. But it creates really amusing interactions when role playing, when you're all right, guys, well, the town's only a few hours away by horse, so let's go. And you're somebody hold my horse.
I've got the full PDF open. It's worded against nature when you folks are looking for it.
There we go.
So imagine a summer.
There were so many new hindrances. There were 2 hindrances that I could not fit on the spread for the preview.
And that's one of them. Of course.
The other one is actually the other one you didn't add on here, and it's not mechanical at all. It's 100% role play. It's Umbral and Masking, and basically, your shadow is either monstrous or it goes against the light, or it's not there at all. Either way, when somebody else notices it, they're, for a very good reason, put off by it, right? And so you have these theoretically negative interactions, and it's one of those ones where you're not relying on the -4 to balance, right? It's not built into that. It is built into role play, and you and your GM just get to have a blast with it.
That sounds very much like Peter Pan. Is Peter Pan in the public domain yet? I don't know. Maybe it would have to be like Pitor, Pitor, the Pan, and he'd have to go against Steve the Pirate, and that'd be a new adventure. Anyway.
Steve the Pirate, yes.
So, Donald, which are the ones, since we've taken the 2 off the sheet and we've talked about them, any of the ones, besides bitter, we need to talk about?
I love, in general, all of these because they are great backstory hook generator things, right? I think a lot of our hindrances are because you're trying to get the kind of the whole gamut, right? And so in Suede, you've got a lot of you've got one-eyed, or you've got your vengeful, right? It's a lot of personality stuff. And one of the things that we get to do with the supplements is kind of go further away from kind of the core that you need. Because if we didn't have that stuff, people would be like, wait a minute, why do you have this? Why do you have my personal favorite, Tainted Spirit? Why do you have the hindrance for your soul was partially sold as a child, but you don't have one for I'm missing an eye? And so I love all of the hindrances in here because I know my players, right? I've got a lot of players who they desperately want to increase their capacity for role play and improv, but they're not super comfortable with it. So having hindrances like these are perfect for them because then they're like, okay, I've got, I've got this cool thing that came up from the book, and now I can just focus on that one thing versus trying to figure out how do I make my character interesting and seem like a real person. Just kind of generally, now they've got this something they can focus on. And my personal favorite is Tainted Spirit. I love the idea that your soul got sold at some point, or a portion of it shelved off by your parents or maybe somebody else.
So two quick things. One is a very brief story. It's me converting somebody to Savage Worlds. I had this buddy.
Are you a cultist?
Yeah, right. I had this buddy who made a cleric, and he's describing his old man cleric and everything. I'm like, oh, awesome. So you took the elderly Hinders. He just looks at me. He's like, huh? And so I show it to him, and he's like, well, I guess I'm taking elderly now, aren't I? And it was just, he had this theme and this idea that he got to do. And the other thing I want to comment on is there's one Helpless, where it's a minor/major, and it's one of the things to keep an eye on when building, right, is how much tracking does there need to be. If your hindrance requires an entire table of people to know what your one hindrance is, probably needs some revamping. And so like Helpless is whenever you see an ally suffer a wound, you're distracted, or with major, you're also vulnerable. And so that's not something anybody else has to track. You can watch your buddy get hit, and he's like, no, I'm just going to take the wound. I'm not going to soak it. And you're just going to be like, please soak it. So it's just something for you, right? And, it again plays to that character who is uncomfortable watching his buddies get hurt, and it, makes him worry. And so I like things like that a lot. Man, I am sorry. The sun is setting on my apartment side here where the window is. So I've been like a glare all evening.
Don't let the sun go down on Mike. Well, good thing the sun's not setting on your career, because with the success of 2 Savage Pathfinder Kickstarters, I think we're going to need some more. I mean, I think one of the comments people, do we even know internally? Do we know where we're going next after the Advanced Player's Guide? And I mean, obviously, I think we've done the campaigns, the big Pop Point campaigns, kind of in order so far. But what other any other ideas on what's cooking? Are we ready to spoil, or that's gonna have to be a mystery that you'll just have to tune in to find out?
Let's go with a mystery, right?
Okay.
We've got at least one more stream.
We need more backers to realize that one. If we get to 1,500, we'll let you know maybe what's next.
There's if we're talking campaigns, there's so many really good things out there. One that's it's an older one, for example, that I would love to do one day is the Shackled City. This is before Paizo got to put out Galarian and Ernest, right? But it's the one that pulled me in to Adventure Paths in the beginning. And then of course there's so many other books. I know people are dying for the Gunslinger and the Magus. I know people are dying for more monsters. There's a lot we can do, and we've talked about stuff internally. But before I get thrown under the bus for promising anything that we don't do, I think I'll hold off for another day.
Awesome. Yes, let us get through this one, guys. These are big and hard. And the first, I think the first Pathfinder Kickstarter was probably the largest single thing Pinnacle has done all at once. I mean, the number of books that were involved with it, and just everything, 2 box sets and all that stuff. So luckily we are seeing good signs. I mean, the global economy is tanking, but there's good signs on we're getting stuff to you faster. We have so many things shipping right now, it's ridiculous. Like Pathfinder shipped, and then Flash Gordon shipped, and then we're going to have updates soon about Atlantis. And then the reprint of the 4th printing of Suede is now in stock and ready to ship. And I think soon, trademark, we'll have the Deadlands Core and the Companion back for people, because we know you want to buy more of those. We're seeing improvements. And enough that after we beat Simon up for his alignment issue on the spine, we allowed him to return home to England, to Wales. In fact, he's Welsh. And for a couple weeks. So, I mean, there's just things are going well. And so we're hopeful on this campaign. We put out a pretty realistic estimate, I think, on when we can get this to you in physical form. And we think you guys have hopefully responded for that. Yeah, just don't throw anybody under the bus, right? Right. Jody can start the bus up all she wants, but don't throw anybody under the bus. But yeah, I mean, this is an awesome campaign because we've got something for players and for game masters, and it's going really well so far. So thank you guys. We are a small company, so do share to your friends. Let them know that we're running this campaign. Nothing is better than word of mouth for all of our stuff, and so as well as we've already done, we want to do better just so we can keep Mike hired and so he can keep doing crazy stuff. And then Mike's doing other cool stuff that's not even Pathfinder. So there was some like SPC stuff. So Mike, I mean, yes. That's a box. And people were like, we want more pawns. I'm just saying, like, Donald has been involved, and his wife too, with there's some cool stuff in that box that's 3D and movable and
I'm going to play what's in that box tonight.
Oh, I'm so jealous. So yeah, guys. So I mean, we're not going to give you all the details, but there's some really cool stuff afoot at Pinnacle, and the Doom Guard is one of the really cool things that's afoot. And see those little tiny miniatures that Don's pointing to? Yes,
that have been on my shelf since we started streaming.
Right? But like, I mean, there's a Basque boat over here, and we're not doing a Basque fishing game. Sorry, guys.
You're not.
Well, but I mean, like, no, I think that Michael and Simon even met in person recently. Like, that Simon's actually a real human being, and someone saw him in the flesh to play test what's in that box. And so yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming. We mentioned a certain Deadlands Dark Ages project during this stream, and we are going to love to bring that to you when we can. It'll hopefully they will be kickstarting this year. But yeah, other than that, guys,
I do want to throw out there that wasn't actually a plug. That's just something I'm legitimately in love with.
It's cool. I can't wait till you see them larger. Can you show one of them larger, Don? Can you like just hold one up to the camera?
Oh, sure. Of the minis. I was talking about. I wasn't plugging Deadlands Dark Ages. I just love that fantasy of the swordsman with the great sword on the back. I don't think I have. Oh, Mike, yeah, yours. It's getting eaten by your green screen. So Mike's got the whole thing.
You should.
I actually have the defects.
The art, right, the art for both of those. Like if you guys, I mean, we've definitely published the art for that one in the Sci-Fi Companion promo, and then the one that Michael's holding, I definitely use the art for that to request artists actually for yeah, it's the little book with
and Landauer meant the SPC promo, not
SPC.
Sci-Fi.
Yes, we have. Yes. Don't come at us in sci-fi, people. Don't come at us. Yeah. You're gonna have to wait. But yeah, so Jody has been lovely to post the link in the chat. Please share the link. We put stuff out every day. Just please share it to your friends. Let your game groups know. Ask your friendly local game stores to order our stuff. We've got the actual box sets of the first Pathfinder stuff ready for them to buy. And there is no better advertising than having our books in your friendly local game stores. So info@pegging.com. If your store doesn't carry it, we will get them to carry it. And with that, we've done our hour. Thank you guys for the preview. Thank you for being such awesome backers in the campaign. And then tomorrow, let me get this right because let's see. So I think same bat time, same bat channel. We are going to have the author of the Curse of the Crimson Throne. We are super lucky. He amazingly still works at Paizo. It is James Jacobs, and at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/peginc. And I think we're also co-streaming on official Paizo as well. So bring your questions for James Jacobs on the amazing Curse Crimson Throne campaign. I know you guys, a lot of you haven't played it yet, but you will because you're going to buy it, and it's amazing. But it is tough to write a 6-book. I mean, ours is 6-book. There's a 6-book too. Campaign and hit the right beats and to make it so iconic and have it last the test of time, and then have all the savages want to play it. I'm sorry, the wild cards. That's our new thing, right? We like wild cards. It's a cool name, right? We like it. So, anyways,
I'm probably extra, but
yeah, but so extra. You are, Mike. So right, we got a green screen just for Mike to hide all of the books behind him that we can't show to you. That was really why we got the green screen. And then also Knights of the Diminishment Table. So Knights of the Diminishment Table is going to be on our Savage Showcase on Thursday. It's going to be our first Savage Showcase. What the Savage Showcase is that it's a chance for all of the PEG adjacent So not PEG, not official products, but all of the aces, the swag members who post on Drive Thru RPG, and then all our media network folks to show you guys what they are creating, all the amazing work that they're doing on behalf of the Savage Worlds community. And so that'll be on Thursday. And then, as Jody said, we're going to put this up in the news. There is, if you want to get, if you're a digital backer and you're like, I don't want to do the become a Rune Lord level and wait for my products, because you could do that. We have a digital bundle, the Rise of the Rune Lord digital bundle on peginc.com.
Yeah. It is specifically called the Rise of the Rune Lords digital starter bundle. And fun fact, because there are so many product images in the graphic I made for the cover, I have to save it as a PSB because it's 5.5 gigabytes large. So you're getting a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
One last plug I do want to throw out for both Rise and Curse, right? There are going to be in multiple books, mundane items, magic items. I think there's edges, artifacts, intelligent items. There is a lot of stuff that is in these that even after you're done, you may have players that want to see these items in future games. Or there's a particularly nasty spell that a legendary wizard has at the end of Rise of the Rune Lords that a player might want to have his other characters search for in another campaign and try to use. There's a lot of stuff in there to reuse after you've, murdered a bunch of people.
You've resolved conflicts peacefully and tactfully using diplomacy.
Right. There's lots of enemies, things that we couldn't necessarily fit in the bestiary, for people who like to pronounce it that way. There's different monsters that are in there, like the Shining Child, who is a really weird and really nasty glowing entity. There's a bunch of cool stuff in there besides just the adventure path, which is again full of lore. You guys will probably talk about it tomorrow, but just the amount of story that unfolds within the book, that they have different ways to that's like saying I guess I say bestiary a lot too. At first
there's the part of the company that says it bestiary, that's right, and the part of the company that says bestiary and is wrong.
And every time it comes up in our Monday meetings, we make fun of each other for 5 minutes. This is just how this is.
I'm on whichever group heckles Simon the most about it.
Well, and speaking of heckling Scorch and Beast, Scorch is coming back, folks. You've heard it here first. So he's going to give you some previews the rest of this week and next week of some of the awesome stuff that's in the books in his usual sardonic and sarcastic way. So welcome back, Scorch. And guys, I think that's enough for us today. I know you guys want more of these, so we'll probably do these another one again on Tuesday, next Tuesday, if I can wrangle these two again, and we'll answer some more of your questions and show you some more previews. But until then, go and get our digital bundle if you haven't. If you want to be a digital backer, go back our Kickstarter campaign. It is already, let's go check just in case. Yes. Again, over 1,000 backers, 2,400% funded. Over 120K. So there's a little over 2 weeks to go, 15 days. We are going to be closing on a Thursday, and that's going to be a really big Thursday because we're going to do a Game Master duet stream. We're going to do the live last hour stream, and then we're going to do the summer showcase. So it's going to be like 3 full hours of Savage World streaming content, all for you on that Thursday to celebrate our Game Masters who game together, and then the wonderful end of our campaign, because hopefully it'll be wonderful because it's already funded and amazing. And then also the Savage Summer Showcase episode 2 or 3, somewhere in there. So cheers, guys. It's been fun. And go and tell your friends about the Advanced Player's Guide and the Curse of the Crimson Throne for Savage Worlds, because they're awesome. Thanks again, Michael and Donald. And other than that, we're going to go back to working on all the typos and stuff that we need to play test on this. So it is the best project ever. So cheers, folks.